What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about developing a guide for the third and final leg of the GoFest Challenge reward system. It is going to be centered around Stardust, and you know how much you love Stardust. I love Stardust as well. People go crazy for a community day that has the Stardust bonus, maybe something like a ×3 catch Stardust. But just imagine this. We have an event where we're going to get it for an entire week, as well as some other benefits associated to Stardust. That is insane. I mean, this is something that Pokemon Go gifted us, and we are going to want to take advantage of it. So I'm going to be talking about some strategies that you can go ahead and deploy now, prepare for it, use during it, and then just take a major advantage of this and get yourself a ton of Stardust along the way. If you do enjoy this type of video and it is helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's go ahead and dive into this. The first aspect that we need to talk about is going to be centered around that ×3 catch Stardust. And I'm going to go ahead and break this down into two different categories of what you need to do to go ahead and utilize this. First step is going to be stacking the research task. If you do not know what that is, what you do is if you go into your research, you will go ahead and encounter one of the Pokemon. And once you do, maybe throw on a Pineapple Berry, for example, and then you simply run for it. Once you do that, it will create an additional slot where you will be able to see 4 in total, and every time you end up doing this, they end up just going to the back of the top of the stack, and then you can stack up to 100 Pokemon. And how you know you end up going over it is eventually the Pokemon that you first encounter will no longer be there. Once you do that, that means you have hit 100, and it ends up throwing off the first one on the stack. But the reason why you want to do something like this is because of the simple fact that you can run through 100 Pokemon, catch it in about 15 minutes or so, and then simultaneously you can be efficient for the fact that you will be able to do this with just one star piece going on. And to be able to do that in such a short duration, you will be able to save yourself some star pieces, and then of course take advantage of it from that perspective. But keep in mind, there's going to be kind of a second part that falls into this / outside of it, and that's just going to be having post-evolution Pokemon. Post-evolution Pokemon do get more Stardust. For example, like a third line evolution would gain 500 Stardust. If it gets ×3, you're talking about 1500 Stardust. And then if you throw on a star piece on that as well, you're talking about getting up into almost the 2000, or getting up into the 2000 Stardust for one single catch. You can also utilize that during the different research Pokemon. Some Pokemon, for example, like that Swalot, it would end up getting you a ton of Stardust, I believe like 1,350 to be exact, just for catching one Pokemon. That is going to be a major deal. Secondarily, if you have heard this speech before, but you do not understand exactly how the stack method works, even though we have talked about it, I'm going to be including a tutorial on the end of the video where I will be explaining it in a different way, and then of course showing you some real world examples. So make sure you stick around for that if you do not understand it. Next, we need to go ahead and move down to this one where we're going to get guaranteed 3,000 Stardust per raid. That is not going to be just for legendaries. That's literally going to be for any raid that you can do. So if you can manage to get yourself a ton kind of string together and maybe use one star piece, you're not opposed to using different raid passes. That could be a very good kind of pay to play type way of yourself gaining some Stardust. And then of course with this, you're talking about 4,500 Stardust on a per raid basis with that star piece going. And guess what is going to be a very good opportunity for you to do throughout this? How about a legendary event hour throughout the week? If you end up getting that, make sure that you end up throwing on that star piece. Go ahead and do, 10, 15 raids. You will want to use the star piece throughout that and absolutely stack up on that. Just keep that in mind. You can also do this throughout the week with non-legendary raids as well. Moving on to the third benefit, it is going to center around 3-time hatch Stardust. And something interesting going on is that we are also going to have another event that will come into play in this way, and that is the friendship event, where you can get yourself a 2-kilometer egg from a friend doing the gifting system as opposed to the typical 7-kilometer eggs. Now this is going to play a major benefit because one, you can just really fly through these eggs, and then secondarily, it's a free way to do it, and because we have the ×3 hatching Stardust, I think people are going to want to take advantage of this. Maybe if you are not a person who typically does a lot of hatching, You can look at it from the free aspect, and those out there who do use a ton of incubators, maybe you pay for it. Yeah, you are definitely going to want to get out there, get some walking done, maybe even some shaking done with your phone, if you know what I'm saying, and getting yourself a ton of Stardust in that way. Take advantage of it. And then thirdly, or I guess fourthly but last, is going to be the 1 hour star pieces. Now this is going to be the single benefit that plays the biggest factor into all 3 tasks, so it definitely has some value. So if you have yourself some star pieces, I would highly recommend you to go ahead and use this. I've been collecting them in some of the boxes throughout time, but I wanted to use them in a very meaningful way. Community days are definitely good ones whenever you get like a ×3 catch Stardust. And for example, we will get that for the Turtwig Community Day, but simultaneously though, this event is first and it takes priority, and also it will be a week long, so I think it's going to be more beneficial than just a 3-hour event. So you can bet I plan on using my star pieces throughout the week, especially using it for when I clear out my research task. That is definitely going to get one of my star pieces throughout the entire week. So I've ran into a lot of people who seem to be confused related to how the stacking of the research tasks work, mostly for the fact that what you see here is very difficult to kind of like see behind the lens of exactly what is going on. And I figured we might as well go ahead and use some cards. I think that that's a really good way to go ahead and do this. So for example, we've got ourselves the 3 research tasks. This is something that many of you have seen if you just go into your research. And what ends up happening is once you encounter one of the Pokemon and you run from them, go ahead and throw a Pineapple Berry on that, by the way. It's not required, but it is recommended so you don't have to bury it later, so you can just save time. But you will encounter the Pokemon and simply run from it. And once you do that, what will end up happening is the number 1 Pokemon will move up into that top slot, and then number 2 and 3 will move up there, and then you'll have like a 4th slot that's going to be empty. Now let's say you keep doing some research tasks and then you end up completing them, and now you've got the research stack, and then you have your typical 3 slots. For example, in this case we've got Pokemon 2, Pokemon 3, Pokemon 4. Now what's going to end up happening is if you encounter number 2 and then you run from that Pokemon, it's going to go to the back of the stack, and then 3 and 4 will move up, and then eventually you'll fill in that slot, and you'll just keep repeating this. So you encounter number 3 and then you run from it, and it will simply go to the back of the stack, and then the same thing will just keep happening over and over and over again. Number 4, it's going to go to the back of the stack once you end up running from the encounter. Number 5, you do the encounter and then you run from it, and it will go to the back of the stack. And then number 6, you do the same thing, and now it is in the back. So as you can see, of course there's only one layer to this, but when we've talked about this example, you know that there are multiple cards that are behind that number 1 slot. This is the stacking of the different Pokemon with the research, right? Sure, it looks like one stack, but it is multiple Pokemon. This can be 100 Pokemon deep. But once you end up getting past that 100 slot, so let's say for example you completed another research task and it went to the back, you're now at 101 Pokemon. Because the stack can only hold 100 in total, what will end up happening is that number 101 will go to the very back and number 1 gets kicked out. This is going to be a loss of Stardust on that Pokemon, but the stack is still going to be 100 deep. It's just going to start with number 2 and then go to 101. And if you keep on doing that, it's just going to cycle through these, and you're just going to lose the first set of Pokemon that you have. So it's important that once you end up getting your total 100 done, to go ahead and just clear out your stack at that point in time, especially if you have post-evolution Pokemon, for example, that Swalot. You don't want to end up losing a Pokemon like that because it will be more valuable than something else that is just the first line evolution. So I hope that does explain how the stacking mechanic works, maybe explaining it in just a little bit of a different way. I'm also going to be putting that specific segment onto my second channel, so if you want to pass off that information to someone else, make sure to go ahead and check that out. It will be on more FLW videos, so you can send it around if anyone ends up being confused. Anyways, I hope you did enjoy this episode. I hope that you are excited about that global challenge. I absolutely know that I am. I've got a target set in mind. I want to get up to 2 million Stardust. I do think that I will be able to get it throughout this entire event. If you have any questions or suggestions, definitely put them in the comments section below, and I We'll see you next time. If you want to develop a deeper connection, I would highly recommend you to check out Patreon. We've got a lot of really cool things going on over there. Check out all of these supporters that we have. We are almost up to 100. We are also posting some special content, some behind the scenes work. And if that is the type of thing that interests you, I would highly recommend you to check it out.